This video includes major spoilers for chapters 21 to 26, the endgame pretty much. Welcome back. Yes, I know this only covers 5 chapters, but the reason why part 2 covered 9 chapters is because many of those chapters didn't really get the story moving, if you catch my drift. But all of these chapters are story maps and actual progress to the story. For a bit. Some chapters may seem important for recovering an emblem or fighting the 4 hounds, but in my opinion, these just pad out runtime to make the game seem long. These chapters are what I deem to be story maps, and the other maps are filler maps or minimal story progression maps. Take chapter 18 for example. You don't get an emblem, you don't fight a hound, there's no corrupted or whatever, so it's just padding out game time. Gameplay wise, I'm all for it. The filler maps are fun chapters. Chapter 14 and 18 are really fun maps, but the story itself, it's not doing much. I'm not saying the paralogs are filler maps, that is side content, which I'll cover in another video because I want these first 3 parts to be strictly about the main maps and story. Okay, so with all that out of the way, let's get to chapter 21. Chapter 21 kicks off with us heading to Letho's castle. So it would have been chapter 20, but Gris bought time for Zombron and Zephyr to get away. We head there by ship with Mavir and Marnie taking us there. They are still our enemies, but for now I guess you could say it is a ceasefire. We reach the castle, and as expected, Gris Zephyr show up on time for the occasion. We all have the emblems by now, and look who shows up.
It's good to see you again.
What did you do to Lady Vale?
I told you about Lord Zombron's enchanted hell.
She's back and she got that shit on, if I'm honest. But anyway, she does her monologue and Marnie and Mavir are intending to fight against us. Mavir has a soft spot for Vale, so does Marnie. They both know that Zephyr is doing some really up shit to Vale, such as giving her a helmet to amplify the hex curse, to make Vale permanently evil as long as she is wearing the helmet. Anyways, Marnie just bolts in to strike Vale's helmet and it does nothing at all. That talking was for nothing, eh? Zephyr walks to Marnie and oh shit, she's dead. I didn't see this coming in, and hear me out. We whipped Marnie for 4 maps, and I thought, okay, it's villain plot armor, so she'll die when the game wants her to die. And it was that time. So it was sudden to see her actually go. Mavir is distraught of this outcome, considering that Zephyr always called them family. Okay, that's just bull. He screams out of grief, but it comes out more goofy than sad. Just take a listen. With that out of the way, let's kick off the late game. Chapter 21 is a serious chapter where you fight Zephyr, Gris, and Vale as the bosses. The start of this map is painful, so you see a couple of beasts in front of you and a line of armor units, so I crowd control with fire veins and obstruct whenever I can. This is useful for, well, crowds of enemies. Just look at the screenshot from chapter 25, right? There are also reinforcements coming in from the sides as well. In my opinion, it's better to handle the right side because it's sages and they're easy to take out, yet while playing the map, I ended up taking the left side where archers spawn in and could take out my softer units. If this was 3 houses manning where reinforcements are same turn, this would be hell, but thank goodness they didn't decide to do that for this game. But even worse, in some maps the reinforcements are infinite, so take that how you will. We confront Gris and make light work of him, and same along with Zephyr, but since they have plot armor they don't die and just retreat. Look, I really don't care for them at this point of the game, and the game should have them dead when they want them to die. We've encountered and fought the 4 hounds too much that I think they're straight up immortal. Vale is also folded like a launcher, and side note, her black dress does look awesome. I wish they showed that more, but instead of just being a one-off like this, it would have been nice to see in chapter 17. We take care of Vale no problem because of how broken Panette is, and that is chapter 21.
No, it's not possible.
We end up getting Vale back to normal, so all seems well until Zombron shows up to be no fun, and he demands that Vale takes back the emblem rings, but she defies her father's request. And side note, let me say just how cool I think Zombron's snake dragon design is. Seeing it in the cutscenes, and he does look menacing to a certain degree. The way he moves up close on some characters is kind of scary, such as when he munched on Hyacinth. So Zombron says, okay, I'ma kill you now, and launches a laser to kill Vale, and Alear takes the fatal blow head on, resulting in her dying. But before she does die, she tells Vale that there is so much to be done, that I can't die yet, or that she is her sister. The dragon stone that I mentioned in my last video starts to crack, and now Vale finally knows that Alear is her sibling. Zombron steals the rings again and uses their power to bring upon his land again, Gratlon. It's hell in a nutshell. We see Alear in the afterlife, but during those moments where Vale is losing her consciousness and evil Vale takes over again, this is the end, and abandon all hope. My first thoughts heading into this map were, okay, so we'll do a map without Alear on our team. That seems interesting, like an escape map, or survive a couple couple of turns to win the map, what actually happens is Alear comes back from the dead, but as a corrupted. So everyone is on edge about Alear being a corrupted because they don't know if Alear can switch up on them and just stab them in the back. I would have liked to see Alear with red hair again, since she is mostly corrupted and half fell. She is no longer divine at this point because Marth is red now. So he has a blank stare, and chapter 21 and 22 are back-to-back maps or series maps similar to chapter 10 and 11. You have to do these maps back-to-back, yet not only does the late game turn up the heat, but this map is a turtling one where you have to take your time getting everyone through, and again you have 12 units on your starting lineup with Mavir and Vale force deployed. Since Mavir was a starter in the last map, Vale joins your team this chapter. You see these emblem tiles where you have to activate them, but since they're red emblems you can't really activate them sadly. You still get their stat boosts such as Lyn with Alacrity and Speed Taker, but you can't use their engage abilities. And since I don't have the DLC emblems at the time of recording this, I had a bit of trouble in this map, especially with the reinforcements constantly coming in from the side. But this map overall isn't as bad as chapter 21 was, so you complete the map and Alear is dead again, and for real this time. Since she awakened all the emblems at once, it took a lot of power from her, so she is drained and ends up unconscious or dead. Take it how you will. Vale tries reviving Alear again, but it fails. Alear is now in the afterlife again. She is disappointed for not being able to see her duty through, but suddenly she sees light, and the 12 emblem rings are back to revive her once again. She does a Doctor Strange, and we're back in the real world. Alear awakens once again, and now is Emblem Alear. Heading into this cutscene, I was like, oh cool, she's alive again. But the music, oh the music, it's so damn good. Yes, the story got predictable. Yes, she died twice, but the music for when she became Emblem Alear is so good. The guitar riff is blissful to hear. Anyways, we are back as Alear, and she has fully blue hair. So you think, oh, she is fully divine now. But nope, she still has the Colgate build. Anyways, since Sombron brought back Gradlon and created a portal to another dimension, I suppose. He has 3 shards guarding those portals, and we have to travel through the Gradlon land to take them down. First stop, the volcano area of Gradlon, where we run into Zephyr and Gris, and yes, this is the final confrontation of them, because this is the late game, so there's no reason to keep them alive. So, let's kick off the hell of chapter 23. This map took me nearly 3 hours to clear. Now, why, you may ask? So, let's list a few things that will make this map hellish. Number 1, the Fell Shard. So these things have a gimmick, and in this case, they launch meteors at you. Zephyr and Gris are both together in this map. So they don't kill you, but they leave you vulnerable. These rocks are also in the way, so you have to be careful in navigating your way through the map. And there are 2 paths to the bosses. On to the right, in the longer path, I'm assuming, and one on the left. Well, I'm assuming it's the hard and shorter path to get through. The reinforcements, my goodness, they do not stop. And this map is easily the map where I had to use the most Fire Veins, Kaya Obstruct, just to crowd control the enemies. There are enemies coming from all parts of the map, and it's just brutal. Triggering enemies also doesn't help, and yes, I'll admit my playstyle is not as safe as it could be, but I'd like to play with Rift, and if they do work, it's a solid reward, but not in this map. You have to stick with your group, and the starting positions of your units are split up, so there's an initial wave of enemies coming at you from the very start, so any weak physical units are done for. There are so many cabs, flyers, berserkers come in so fast and play aggressively on you. This is on the top dealing with the meteors, so you're turtling your entire way through the boss, and wherever you may be, there's always an enemy 2 tiles within your team. I slowly but surely take care of all the units coming through, and I left Kagetsu by himself on the left side so he can handle Gris and keep the left side reinforcements at bay. Zephyr herself is a physical attacker in this case, uses a physical weapon, Georgios, however you pronounce it. So she is using no tome, so chipping her down with chain attacks and debuffing with Draconic Heck does fine damage to her, and I finish her off with Etier.
I live to fight again.
I'll help.
Oh, me too! We're not done.
Quite strong. Lord Sombron.
Gris is also taken care of as well, and he has Nova, so I find him with a fast unit like Kagetsu, so he can easily dodge. Nova, since Nova has a lackluster hit rate, it functions like a brave weapon, so it can be really good against armor units or cabs even. But aside from that, it's not crazy reliable. We leave them to die before heading to our next destination, but before that, Zephyr tells us we can't even reach the next shard because it is submerged underwater. So she gives us some stone to surface that area where the shard is. She dies, and so does Gris. They have this touching scene where they reminisce about the times they had as a hounds and are appreciative of the time they had together. Now part of me feels pity, but at the same time they took forever to die, so hell yeah, they're dead. And no more 4 hounds, by the way. We head to the cold snowy area of Gradlong and can't find the dragon shard, but Vale detects the shard underwater, so we use the crystal to surface the area. Except we travel back in time 1,000 years in the past and meet our past self with red hair. Pastelir speaks softly, like this. I don't know why, but hey, that's how she speaks. Pastelir sees that we have an emblem and senses an emblem she's never sensed before, clearly that being Emblem Alir. But President Alir can't admit to that. So President Alir runs away to regroup with everyone and she finds the team. We also see Zephyr in the past, but that doesn't really matter because we don't fight her, thank goodness. Pastelir demands the rings, but Alir slips out that we want to break the shard. So Pastelir says, no, you will not pass through this mountain. So we kick off chapter 24. Holy shit, is this chapter a pain. Alright, it isn't as bad as chapter 23, but let's list off the pain that this map offers. So here's the main gimmick of this map. An avalanche, yes, is an avalanche. This avalanche doesn't do any direct damage to you, but it pushes you back many tiles. Not only that, but you also have a turn limit of 15 turns. So you gotta hurry the hell up to pass the layer and fight her. Issue is there's a lot of enemies in your way, and it's not like I can easily carve a path through because there are many paths that you have to take. You can take 3 paths, and the starting positions are split up into groups of 3, and if you played any FE game, you know that staying grouped is most useful. So I use Hortensia in the beginning to rewarp and use Micaiah, so it has an AoE staff effect. There are units in the upper path as well, so I take my time killing the units in the top path and end up regrouping later on in the map. So the avalanche can hit you on one of 3 paths, so it's not like the avalanche comes in every turn, but it starts from the bottom and makes its way to the middle path. Now on paper this seems like an interesting map. You're on a time limit to go to Alir, and there's avalanches that can push you back really far. There are a lot of enemies spread throughout the map, so this seems like a fun challenge. On my first attempt I failed miserably, and it was late at night when I was doing the map. I retried it soon after and found the map to be much more doable, and it was actually kind of fun going through the map, taking advantage of the obstruct and giving everyone canter. It's absolutely useful to put on your units, especially Seedall, your dancer. There's beasts everywhere, but getting Kagetsu to Erika, he's absolutely broken. This map I use my emblems a lot, but eventually we reach past Alir, I bait her with Lyn and debuff her, and we finish her off easy. But her unique dialogue with Alir is kind of depressing if I'm honest.
You're scared.
Yes, of course. I've been scared from the start of all this. It's only natural. Scared of losing battles, of losing what's important to me.
I will admit, I am jealous of you. You have my face, but you say the things you feel. Out loud.
We leave Alir to die because our work here is done. We broke the shard and have 1 more left to go. So we move on, and since the map had a time limit, which was in the story, we did have a time limit to break the shard, and honestly makes it feel all the more satisfying to break it. So now we have 1 final shard. Vale senses the presence of the shard, and she brings us to a temple or chapel. We end up running into Lumera, and she seems normal at first until Vale asks Alir to meet with Lumera alone. So they confront each other, and Lumera starts going in on Vale, talking about how heartbroken she was to have her die by Alir's side. All the hurt she has done. All Lumera wants is to be with her child. And side note, the voice performance from Lumera's voice actress is fantastic. Despite the anime BS and moments like these are few and far because of that. Anyways, Alir attempts to break in the temple, but Vale locked herself in, thinking that Alir shouldn't share this burner with her. So she locked us out. Without taking into account that she could die, you know, that image how it is when the boss becomes a playable character. That's exactly how both Mauvier and Vale are like. Now, at least Mauvier has some physical defense, so he is not entirely bad. But Vale, she is mediocre, and considering how much the game turns up the heat for the late game, Vale can't really keep up, in my opinion. You can use her, sure, but you already have a final team, if you will. I used her because it was my first playthrough, so I just decided to try out. So Alir breaks in, confronts Lumera, and gets straight to the point and asks why is she under Sombron. If it wasn't that obvious, this ain't the real Lumera. It's a corrupted, so she praises Sombron for reviving her. After enough talk, we can finally kick off the final stretch of the game, starting with chapter 25. This map is hard, so here's a word of advice. Use Micaiah and this map will be significantly easier than normal. Why? Well, because the original positions of the map set you up to where your squad is split up into 2 groups. If you use Rewarp and Micaiah, you can get your units all grouped up together. Whether you take the right or left, initially I took the right path because it looked easier, but it ended up being a bunch of enemies spawning in because of how brutal the reinforcements are on this map. Now granted, they're not same turns, so it's doable. I took a screenshot of how many many enemies that were in a group, so I retried, and in my second attempt I took the left path and had a much easier time. The reinforcements are still there, but since it's flyers that are easy to take out with magic and bows, you'll deal with a couple of berserkers and mages as well, but since they have low physical defense, they're easy to kill. The shard gimmick is a laser. It's an AoE attack similar to the meteor, but it reaches the spawn area and it can reach across the entire map. You can escape it, of course, but while also trying to avoid constant barrages of enemies and making sure reinforcements don't jump you, I eventually reach the center area, and the right door is broken up by the enemy unit. I buy time with fire veins and Pangerio and obstructs from Hortensia. Eventually I start fighting Lumera, and she can't be smashed back a tile, so she is stuck on the avoidance tile. Her weapon Willy Glands is ranged, so unless you use a longbow or a tome, she can counter. I do what I know best in sending Kagetsu to fight her while everyone starts to close in on her. She has 3 health bars, so I fold her like a launcher and we move on. She has unique dialogue with Alir, Vander, Frem, and Clan, but who the hell is using Vander this late, let alone past chapter 5? I can see why people would use Clan or Frem, maybe for healer and just support though. Anyway, we finished Lumera swiftly. The following scene is emotional and got me sad for a bit, to be honest. They depart and vow to see each other again, whenever that'll be. So with chapter 25 done, there's one final wall to get over before this game is finished. Chapter 26 can be accessed to the Somnial once you choose to depart. There is no going back. Not really, because you can do whatever the hell you want before finishing this map, like finishing paralogs, grinding SP through skirmishes, forging weapons to the max, and whatnot. So it's that time. We pull up to Sombron and confront him, just to have a whole bunch of nonsense that the characters spit out and how what Sombron is attempting is evil. So basically, talk no jutsu. It fails because Sombron, he just wants to invade Otherworld. The team gets ready, and as we start the final map, all of our emblems are wiped from us, so we can't use it. Okay, seems cool, you fight Sombron without engaging and not being able to cheese it. Yet I'm being so for real when I say the power of friendship cancels out all the powerful aura Sombron has. You can't make this shit up, man, because there's one thing I'll give credit for. This shot of all the emblems together standing is awesome. It gives me some Smash Bros. Brawl vibes. Seeing all the emblems rising up again and coming together for one final battle was neat, but seeing Vander in the cutscene made me chuckle a bit. Anyways, we kick off the final battle and set in the big stage for the portal between worlds. This portion of the map is simply killing a few enemies, baiting Sombron with a mage because that is a primary means of attack from him in his normal form. Then, once you take him out, you advance to the next phase. While Sombron becomes evil big lizard again, he has a crap ton of shield, and you have to take out a bunch of dark emblem units to break his shield in the final fight. This final fight is genuinely fun, I gotta say, and it is one of the better final maps in this game. Despite the constant turtling in this map I found myself, I was on edge and on my seat constantly while playing this map. The reinforcements weren't as bad as in chapter 25. Oh, and the music, my gosh, it's just perfect for this map. Narratively, I think it's cliche since it uses up the power of friendship, so it throws tension out the window. Fighting Sombron himself is a bit challenging. He may have limited range, but you can't cheese chain attack him to death because dual assist is inconsistent, and mind you, there are reinforcements on your tail constantly. I tried to attack him once his shield fully broke, and once he spawned in more generals that recovered his shield, I just left one general alive so he doesn't recover, and we finish him off from there by using Kagetsu.
All right.
The ending shows us that Sombron once was a friend, and I mean, come on, there should be no pity for this guy. I understand from Vale, but Alir though, she doesn't remember much from the past aside from being a puppet of Sombron and a disposable child or pawn. I don't want her to be an ass and just leave him to die. It would have been nice to see Alir, Sombron, and Vale having some sort of family moment, like Vale giving Sombron a parting hug. But knowing what happens when you let your guard down from Sombron, it makes sense, so yeah, that's it. You say goodbye to the emblems, and credits roll until you say post-credit cutscene of Alir's coronation. You don't actually see the coronation, but you know, it's an ending, I suppose. Like I said in the very beginning of the series, I think the story is fine. It has its moments like chapter 17, for example, and it has its lows like chapter 12. The gameplay is what keeps me coming back for more, as it is one of the things that is done right. If I were to compare this game with Three Houses, I could see myself picking Engage over Three Houses. You can say Three Houses has great gameplay and story, but the story of Three Houses is only good for like one of the 4 routes. And call me biased, but Blue Lines is the only route where I was truly invested. Enough Three Houses talk though. So yeah, that's part 3 of my Engage Minion series, and it's a fun game overall. I mainly got it because it was on a sale that had the game for 25 bucks, and I'd still pay full price for the game. There's a lot of great aspects in this game, whether that's the characters, music, gameplay, late game difficulty, and the paralogs. But that will conclude part 3 of this mini series. So for the next part, I will be strictly talking about side content such as the paralogs, supports, character thought, and so on. Anyways, thank you for the support, thank you for watching, consider subscribing if you want to watch more, and as always, enjoy yourselves and have a good one.